Step into a new day. We can rise up from the dust and walk away.
Crowd down. Alrighty. Call the meeting to order. Van Buren County Quorum Court. All rise, please. We'll be led in a prayer by Justice Bass, immediately followed by the pledge by Justice Holt.
Our gracious Father, we thank you tonight for the privilege of being able to be here and to do the business for the county. Lord, we ask that your hand would be upon this county, not only this county, but on the whole United States. None of us know the outcome of what's about to happen. God, I know you have everything in control, and our trust is not in our government, but in you. And we ask you, Father, that you would give us wisdom how to do county government, Lord, that we could come together tonight and agree, even if we disagree, that you might be glorified in it all, Father. And we'll love and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Appreciate everyone being here tonight. It's good that we have a small crowd to help control the spread. We do appreciate everyone who is here. I'm thankful for the means of video that we have, that people can be here and participate without having to physically be here. So I guess it's times like these where we take nothing for granted, and we're thankful for all that we do have. Roll call.
Holt.
Here.
Nikki.
Here.
Sarah.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Lynn. Bradford.
Here.
Tatum.
Here.
Lemmings.
Here.
Bass.
Here.
You have a copy of the minutes from the last meeting. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So be it.
Second.
Motion by Holt, second by Phillips to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You have a copy of the treasurer's report. Do I hear a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Tatum, second by Nikki Brown to approve the treasurer's report. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You were emailed a copy of the appropriations analysis. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
Motion by Holt, second by Tatum to approve the appropriations analysis. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? County roads and equipment report is pretty small because we haven't got to work on the roads much. It's all of our work days have been rain days. County road operations have been interrupted greatly due to rain. The department has worked some weekends and non-traditional hours to try to do as much as possible when possible. We're using the rain days to catch up on signing, yard cleanup, maintenance, and service on all our vehicles, trying to get everything up to shape, sharpened up, straightened up, and ready to roll as soon as the weather breaks. We continue to install culverts where needed, drainage being our primary focus, and so far we have had no interruptions at the road department due to the coronavirus outbreak. Any discussion or questions? Okay, are there any elected officials that need to address the court? Court, do you have any questions for any of the elected officials that are here? Okay, first on our not really on our agenda, but this is the community portion of the program anyway. Gordon Wilburn is here to entertain any questions that we have concerning the ballot that was passed. And I think Nikki has had several questions emailed to her, so Nikki, I will let you ask your questions.
Okay. All right, Mr. Wilburn, I had Sharon Richardson couldn't be here tonight, but she sent a list of 5 questions that she wanted me to read and get a response to. So I'm just going to read them verbatim, the questions she has asked. The first question is, was the extension of the tax for the hospital in any way related to the other measures on the ballot? Why or why not? And I don't know if
I mean, I don't
you
know
can answer
whether-
all these questions.
I don't know whether politically anything was connected in people's heads or not, but no, the hospital tax, which I believe was question 1, there was nothing else in that other than it could have been pledged to hospital bonds if those had been approved.
And the hospital bond was question 3, right? Correct?
Well, yeah, and I mean, there was a refunding bond, which was question 2, which would have had to be approved also
Okay.
before that happened. But the medical part of the ballot is not tied to anything else.
Okay. Okay, if there's no relation, this is question 2. If there is no relationship, why is the county judge quoted as saying the fire rescue tax will not be collected until the hospital levy ends?
Well, that's just because of the way the law works. It's not, we didn't tie that together. Sales and use taxes end and start only on calendar quarters. That's the way the state does it. They require 90 days to start a tax. They require 90 days to stop a tax when notice is given to them. Best guess, and this was before all this happened, but best guess was that the existing bonds that are out there that are secured by the 1% tax, when the trustee gets the collections in June, Simmons Bank, they will have enough money then that they know that they can pay the bonds off, and they will give notice to the state. But because of that date, that tax will not end until the end of September. Now, I don't know whether June is still the date. I don't know what sales tax collections are gonna look like over the next few months. Maybe that's another month later now. I still don't think that the timing, I think that still would be the date.
Okay.
Same, and then on the flip side, your new tax, your election challenge period for your March 3rd election runs past April 3rd. You know, that would be the deadline for an election challenge. That is less than 90 days before the quarter that would start July 1, yeah. Yes, so you can't start that new tax on July 1. So it would likewise start on October 1. So it's just kind of the way this fell, it's kind of a coincidence that one falls off and one starts at the same time. It could have not
Could have fell
happened.
differently,
Yeah,
but it just
yeah.
happened to even out. Okay. Okay, question number 3. Who directed Mr. Wilburn, as to what the wishes of the QC were in framing writing this ballot issue?
Well, I think we came in with something, and then at the wishes of the Quorum Court, we amended a couple of questions. So, working with the judge to kind of get the initial draft out, but then you guys looked at it and had some changes you wanted to make.
Okay, question 4. Did all questions stand alone? Library, 911, etc. And how was standing alone determined?
Well, not all stood alone, because if the refunding bond tax didn't pass, the refunding bond issue for the hospital didn't pass, you couldn't get rid of the existing tax. That was kind of, those were tied together. But the fire and rescue tax, and then the public safety and library tax, yes, those stood alone. And then but again, of course, then the library bond did not stand alone because it couldn't go into effect unless the taxes to support it went into effect. So there was, some of them were tied together. You had to have the tax passed that would support the bond.
Okay. And then this is her last question, number 5. I've heard that both 4 and 5 had to pass in order for 6 library to be funded. Is that true? Was the library vote tied to anything else on the ballot? And I think that's...
Not if either 4 or 5 had passed and 6 had passed, you could have done the library bonds. But there had to be 1 or 4 or 5. Those were the 2 taxes that were going to support those bonds. So, if only 4 and 6 had passed, it would have taken a lot. You would have had only a quarter cent to support those bonds.
Gotcha. Okay, so those were those 5 questions that
Sure.
are her questions. So,
I I either have Alzheimer's or or I misheard just about everything. I thought that what we heard over and over is that they all had to pass.
No, and I think very clearly.
Did I not
in the
hear that?
lead-in, it says which ones, the lead-in before, unless question 1 and 2 set forth below are approved, the 2.5% medical center tax will not be levied. That was what was stated on the ballot.
What was stated was due to the complexity of it, we encourage everyone to vote all for or all against. But
And I agree with Mary that my understanding was that because it was an extension of the sales tax, that 1 and 2 had to pass. And I have to be honest, that I know I said that, and I really thought that. And so because of it being an extension, those 2 had to pass, and then the other ones could be funded, and I honestly did not think any of them could stand alone. Was just, so I just want to be clear that that's what I thought. I'm not saying that I didn't misunderstand, but that's what I thought.
When the article came out in the paper, and I read that, lo and behold, the fire passed, and it could stand alone. That I had never heard. Never heard that.
I didn't think so either. It was the next day when Gordon called me and was talking to me. I'm like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize it passed.
Well, do you remember we talked about there was a possibility that you might have a short period of time when you had both taxes in place, that one might not fall off and you might have the new one? I mean, that would have been a case where one was approved and one wasn't.
Well, I'm totally blown away with this, because it was not what I heard and was told.
It is very confusing, and it's caused by the fact that under state law, every separate purpose has to be voted separately. You couldn't have lumped all these into a question. That would be against state law. So you have to vote every separate purpose separately, and that kind of leads to these situations.
I feel like it was a learning experience for all of us. It was a very rushed process, but
It was a very expensive learning experience.
we were dealing with an issue that had to be taken care of right then, so.
And I would like to go to the very beginning of this, is who decided the cut? Like, who decided that 50% of it was supposed to go to the fire departments?
We did.
We did. We talked about it in the meeting.
We talked about it, but that's not how it began coming in. It was already a done deal.
I was asked that question as well, or I should say I was blamed. The Quorum Court was blamed for lumping all of these things together. I don't remember voting.
It
on
was
what-
already a done deal
Was
by
it
the
on
time
there?
it got to us that the fire department was gonna get this big hunk of it.
That was the presentation that was made. I had my hands in that. And then y'all could have done anything you wished, and y'all did make some
tried.
changes.
If we remember correctly, I tried.
It was 25%. When we first come in, it was 25%. And then Brian's the one that come and said it was supposed to have been 50%. And we talked about during that meeting, the whole time, we talked different back and forth about the 25, and all of us was involved in that.
Yeah, and I got shut down by you. Because you said you weren't gonna listen to another, no matter what I put out there for an amendment, it wasn't going to happen.
Well, because you were wanting it for the city, you and Nick, you were on the.
I wanted some kind of, an agreement between us, not this is the way it's gonna be, and that's what happened.
But
I disagree.
There was no compromise. There was zero compromise.
No, I disagree totally.
I don't. You ought to go back and look at the tape.
Mary, are you talking that you wanted 1/4% for the city of, over there at Fairfield Bay?
No, it did not have to be X or Y.
You wanted 1/4% for Fairfield Bay, is that correct?
No, that's
No,
not correct.
No.
What I remember is that you wanted it done by the Act 833. correct?
Or,
Yes, or something that was more feasible than everybody across the bat. Let me read to you what we got. I thought this was a real eye-opener, because I got this just before I left home. And this is per capita, what we have. That the cities of Fairfield Bay and Clinton, if we combine the shared, I think this is on a million, okay? That if we combine the shared, the population of the two cities, that $10.11 per capita for city residents in Clinton and Fairfield Bay, okay? Now, let me give you the balloon here. Oh, wait a minute, said the wrong thing. Wait a minute. No, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. It is $23.56, okay? But if you live out in other than, and you live in the county, it's $70.11 per capita. That's what the difference is. Now, that's what I'm against.
But
Because Fairfield Bay and Clinton provide for more people than each fire department out there. I look at Shirley. How many people live in Shirley? Sarah, how many people live in Shirley?
I couldn't tell you. I know I have about 800 and something voters. That's just
Okay.
registered voters.
Okay, well, and that's just not the city of Shirley. You've got part of Fairfield Bay too,
Correct.
okay? That's not right.
the time for this discussion was
It's
when we
next.
debated it and we already voted on it.
Yeah.
And
but I'm
you were
answering
voted down
Virgil's
last
question.
time.
I'm
Right.
answering Virgil's question. I got shut down, and it was because you didn't want any compromise. No compromise.
I don't agree with that either, because I think we was all talking about the being divided out, but I don't think I shut you down, but
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry
did.
if you did.
I think what Virgil said, I mean, this is probably not my fault, but what I remember, and he was sitting beside me, was that he was saying that it was futile for you to present anything else because it was just gonna be voted down.
That was a really nice way of saying it. That's not the way he said it, but that's a really nice way of saying
Well-
it. Thank you, Sarah. That's basically it. But no matter what I was gonna say, it wasn't gonna pass.
Well, it was because we had voted down 2 or 3 different things.
Yeah,
what I
It's called no compromise.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for Mr. Wilburn?
I did have one question, and I'm just gonna ask because I know it's probably not possible. They were wondering, could this come back up in November about the library? We put back on?
Yes, I mean, you've got to wait 6 months at least, that's the state law. You can have a new election in 6 months for whatever you vote to put on the ballot.
Okay.
Would that be enough time for the November election?
Yeah, you
To
could
not have
conceivably,
enough,
you
but-
could
Yeah, you-
conceivably hit the September election and be 6 months later, so anytime after that.
To not have to have a special election?
Right.
Well, I wasn't gonna talk to that. If you had a new ballot, would it be so, like 6 questions again?
Well, it depends on what you want to do.
We will make it simple. I mean, just as simple as you can make
Yeah.
it.
It would only be 2 questions, wouldn't it? 1 and 2?
Well, I mean, I don't know what you're wanting to do, I mean, but.
We're wanting a 0.5% sales tax, the best kind of.
For what?
I think,
The library, the pound.
I think
Yeah.
again, we sit here in March, which is better than sitting here in November,
I agree.
okay? So we need to have meetings in depth because we, come out of this tax with some benefits, but we also come out with a hospital problem, a remaining library problem, no extra money for county general, and the world is, we don't know what's gonna happen.
911, the jail.
Right, in these uncertain times. So I think that this is something that we need a lot of meetings on, and we need to really soul search. And in the coming days, we're probably gonna learn a lot of what we're really gonna need. And I think it is not something to rush.
I agree.
You're probably going to have multiple questions, I would just say, because it sounds like at least some people, question 1 would be, to either repeal or alter what you just did. So that's a question.
I've got a lot of those questions.
Yeah, so,
from
and then if you
people.
want to do it for anything else, that's another question.
Right,
So-
right. So I think it's just a lot of sorting out.
Well, if we did choose November, would we still have to move those hospital bonds over, like
Well, they're gonna pay off. Because comes June at least, if things continue, there's gonna be enough money there to pay those off.
Okay, they're gonna be gone, so 1, 2, 3, 1.
But my understanding is that they need continued maintenance.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Yeah,
doing,
so-
I'm trying to get the extra quarter here.
Actually,
Right, yeah.
the hospital is ready to work with Gordon and take care of that on their own.
They are,
They are.
well, see.
So that would be a separate question. You know, whatever, you can do it in all the way down to eighths, you can cut it down to eighth of a percent, that's how you can slice it. So that would be a question for, hospital operations and maintenance.
But we're really gonna have to think this time about not making it too complicated, so.
It's my closing statement, I wasn't gonna talk to that, but here I go. It takes 5 mills to take 1% sales tax revenue coming in, is that right?
Mhm.
And we're at 3 mills now, so I'm through.
Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you.
Thanks for being
I'm happy
here.
to come back and, just keep in mind that for a special election, you gotta get it done 60 days before the election date. If you're gonna put it on the November ballot, it's 70 days. So, you just look at your Quorum Court schedule and plan accordingly.
Good deal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Our first ordinance is sponsored by Justice Bass.
Be enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an appropriation ordinance to be entitled, appropriation ordinance to amend ordinance number 2019-55, the annual operating budget of 2020, to increase revenue and appropriate funds to the Van Buren County Aging Program. Whereas carryover for 2020 was slightly higher than anticipated, and whereas the Van Buren County Aging Program is facing closure due to fiscal strain, and whereas the increase in minimum wage has had significant monetary impact on the aging program, and whereas there is a need to appropriate funds to cover the increase in minimum wage, now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that the sum of $13,000 be appropriated to the Van Buren County Aging Program, budget 1000-1804-3106. I move for its adoption.
I'm gonna second it because I want to talk about it.
It's been moved and second that we adopt this ordinance. Discussion.
I'll start off. All right, and I just put it out there. I have nothing against the aging program or, nothing like that. But we are going into an economic downfall with this COVID-19 that they're saying we ain't seen in 60, 70 years. And that scares the devil out of me. So I think we need to be real picky on what we spend money on. And we're fixing to have some debts that we haven't seen before. I can promise you that. And the state pays for a lot of it, but they only pay for 75% of it. So that other 25% has to come out of us. And I can tell you some things with the hazmat part of it. We was talking about it earlier today. Is very expensive. I mean, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. And we got to come up with 25% of it. It won't be optional. To disperse it.
It's my understanding that, and I am not authority on this, but that some changes were recently made, that they were going to close some kitchens and just serve out of Clinton. I'm with you, Brian. I'm not going to lie, I'm not scared. But how are they going to get food? I mean, I think that, and this is almost the program set out for us, is to deliver food to people. And we're talking about people that can't get it on their own. And I understand, I don't think you're trying to be, I mean, I think that they have made, I wish that there was someone here that could, a significant change of late that maybe is gonna help with their budget. Does anybody know anything?
Is this the meals that they deliver to their houses? Is that what
Meals
this
on
is?
This is Mills.
What has happened because of the virus? The community center itself has been shut down, and the meals are being delivered. And
I mean, like I say, I'm not against it. I'm not.
right.
You know, but I ain't gonna lie. I mean, this stuff is, what's happening is scary.
Right.
And I think we're gonna notice it next month.
I'll tell you the financial situation that the aging program is in, and you just have to search your heart and do what you feel needs to be done. I completely understand that our sales tax revenues are probably going to just absolutely plummet. Next month, we're going to see the impact of the panic buying, and it's not going to look so bad. We get past that, and we're going to think, oh my goodness, what happened? The aging program is choosing right now to make their payroll payments or to make their bill payments. So without this money, it will be the end of the Van Buren County Aging Program.
It wasn't the aging program's fault that the public voted for this wage increase and minimum wage.
That is what
And
has.
they're suffering because of that. I was told that this money is to help pay up their bills up to this point.
Correct.
Is that correct?
It is.
So how can we turn them out and just say no? How can we do it?
I know, right?
They
Yeah.
built this county.
Yep.
Now, is this gonna be for the rest of the year? Or are they gonna come back again here in another month and say, we need 13,000 more?
They have told me that in April, the program gonna cease unless the program can do its own. This is for bills up to this point. They don't have any way to pay it.
So this
They
just
do
pays
their
them up, this just gets them back even?
Yes.
Back even, and trying to shut all the kitchens down except one, laying off 3 cooks, reducing staff to make up the difference.
So they're charged, is it $3 to each meal when they come in to eat? Is that what it's?
No, they've charged, they upped that to $4
That's
for a
before.
little plastic plate of not much food at all.
And it's optional. They don't have to pay. Some can't afford to.
That may be their only food today, too.
That's exactly right.
So would this come out of county general?
It would. Our carryover was just a little bit more than we had anticipated, and that's what it would come out of.
So how do we compensate for the coming months? I mean, if this is just a Band-Aid.
Right, that's what I'm.
That's what I was trying to get
That's
at.
true.
The change that this would help bridge is because they're shutting down every kitchen except just one.
So it could potentially take care of it.
I doubt it.
I got a question, are they providing Meals on Wheels for the whole county?
Yes. The
Well,
state
Fairfield
funding.
Bay, it does Shirley's, but the program,
State
So-
funding
so
has
Fairfield Bay
decreased.
is
And
still going.
no, they're shutting down.
They had kitchens in different
Yes, I know.
locations. My understanding was they were shutting them all down except Clinton, but I
But
don't.
will Clinton do the whole county then?
yes, I'm not sure that's what Fairfield Bay wants to do, but those Meals on Wheels are being delivered out into that community anyway, so they could throw more meals into an existing trip.
This is the Meals on Wheels because of the virus?
That's
Or
why
because of the shutdown?
the Meals on Wheels is being expanded because of the virus, because they can't come to the centers.
But they always had.
Right.
They always served a certain portion of people that couldn't get out of their homes with their meals.
Right. Correct.
I just don't see how we can, I mean, they owe this, and are we just gonna ask them to, after what they've done, they supported the program. And we're gonna ask them to pay this $13,000 to get caught up. That just is foolish to me.
But if it's just to prolong it for another month or two, I mean, we need to make some adjustments somewhere so we don't have to keep pumping money in. I mean, somewhere we got to balance this thing out.
I think that, I don't know anything about their financials, but it seems to me that closing all the other kitchens, laying off the cooks in those kitchens, the staff in those, I mean, that's got to add up to something. And centralizing this has got to do, but I don't know the numbers behind it. But that seems kind of substantial to me, between electricity, manpower, running those extra facilities, to me, that seems like a pretty significant change, or at least, I don't know that it'll work. I'm not saying that I've seen the numbers behind it. But to me, that's a significant.
Well, if there's ever a time, I mean, that this needs to happen, it's not now. Because the elderly do not need to be out. And if we can provide food for them in their homes, it could save lives, essentially, I mean, when you look at it that way.
And especially now they can't get out. They can't go to the centers.
I mean, it's a hard decision to make, you can't.
Hey, Gina, since this is happening at this time, and since this is going to be extended simply because of the COVID epidemic, because people are going to, we don't want these elderly out and about, can we not label this expenditure as COVID and turn it in for FEMA reimbursement? At least 75% of it?
They're saying elderly don't need to be out, so.
Well, yes and no. Yes, on the part that we could probably recuperate on the Meals on Wheels programs and expanding that, and then pulling that as part of it, because we are supplying emergency protective measures for our public. But as far as the operation itself, the building, I don't know that we'd want to keep any of those open right now, because we really don't need a gathering place.
They're all shutting down.
But the kitchen
They're all
side of
closed.
it could be looked at as far as maybe contract services to provide those emergency services.
So do we
And
table
so,
this?
part of it, yes, part of it questionable.
Yeah, can we table this, do we know?
No.
Do they?
I think we need to, because if they don't have the money to keep their bills going, we got to work on it now.
Well, these are the things, I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but this is
They need the money.
something we might have should have looked at with the tax. I mean,
They've already
Yeah,
shut
it should have been looked at.
Shirley's kitchen down. They can't cook. And they've already shut Shirley's kitchen down some time ago, and it took a big hit on the number of people that they serviced. But still, yet there's people that are faithful to come every day to eat.
Well, I would look at this, Esther. I know what you're saying, I understand. Well, we can't have them come back next month and ask for another $13,000.
I don't think that's what they're asking. I think they're trying to get this paid off.
Yeah, if they get back where they're working it, and they, we can't do that, you're right, we cannot, but.
No, you can't afford to do that. I know that. But there's discussion over there now if they want to go ahead and try to keep it open themselves. And they're going to take the burden. But this is something that they owe. And I don't think it's fair for us to say, well, we're not going to do it, so you take care of it.
I agree.
I got a question for Gina on that. Because if this is something that they owe, is that something we would?
Yeah, that's what I was just fixing to say. If it's a previous expenditure, it's gonna be a no-go. Going forward, those expenditures
could we-
can be reimbursed. The other part too is I think that
FEMA works.
this is kind of a little bit of a gray area, but we might be able to even use that labor as forced account labor and possibly in-kind match on our 25%.
Right.
So, going back previously, can we use those bills and submit those bills and stuff? No. Going forward, from the point that we verbally declared, those expenses for us to provide our vulnerable population assistance, yes.
I think I mean, this is just my opinion, I think we take care of the debt because it wasn't incurred purposefully. It was, the increase with the minimum wage and all that good stuff. They're taking action to lessen their debt. And if we can have any kind of help going forward, then this is not go.
How many people are we talking about in this thing, that we're having to pay for the increased revenue for the minimum wage?
What is it, 7, 8?
All the ones that
Something
Shirley
like
did free gratis, they donate their time, but except the guy that delivers.
So what my question, I'm for the elderly and helping any way we can, but why did we let them get $13,000 down before they come and begin to ask? I mean, we know we said they had problems and situations, but why did we wait so long before we are addressing this now?
The minimum wage just passed this year. It just went in effect this year.
Right.
Actually, it's because they had a CD that was in the bank and they cashed that in, but the state funding plummeted faster than anyone would have anticipated.
Okay.
The governor released $1 million out of his discretionary fund to help the senior program, but the way that's distributed, we get about $5,000, so it wasn't enough to touch it, to offset it. And they've done some fundraisers. They've done some very good ones, and they've did their part. And they thought going into this year that there was a $30,000 difference in between what the state was going to fund and what the bills were going to be. And they had worked, and they had sent out letters to churches and got sponsorships from churches and got money that way. The Cowboy Catfish Supper, that was pumped. That was funneled into that difference. The building got paid off. So that money that wasn't going to have to, that expense that wasn't going to be incurred was added to that. And just when they think that they've got their gap met and they're going to be able to make it, this happens. And the way the state funding comes in, we're getting ready to head into the short period. The summer months are when it pays next to nothing. And then it starts funding back up in September, October, November. Because it's set up in a manner that is not supposed to be government funded or federally funded. It's supposed to be federally and locally funded. And we cut 10%, 6 or 7 years ago. Then we cut 10% more. And I believe we went back and had to cut 10% more just because of the county general's funding. So bill increases, fund decreases. That's where they landed. And I was I'm on this board, and I believe it was a very sobering experience for us all to sit down and look at the financials at the last board meeting and make the difficult decision to say we're going to have to pull the plug.
Well,
like I said, it's up to y'all.
I think that we need to look forward from this since we declared, and that will be a great assistance to them because anything basically they spend, then get back pretty much, or a portion of, or plus their labor.
The opportunities there.
The opportunity, and even the ones that volunteer, that is an in-kind labor, that will go toward the
Yes.
county.
My opinion is just with being basically ordered to not leave your house. If we ever needed to provide Meals on Wheels, it's now.
And it doesn't mean that we won't revisit this 2 months from now, but that's 2 months of meals that they can get in that time.
Okay. Any more discussion before roll call vote? Roll call vote.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Bradford,
No.
Tatum,
No.
Lemmings,
Yes.
Bass,
Yes.
2020-09.
Thank you. The next one is sponsored by Justice Holt.
Being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren County, State of Arkansas, an ordinance being entitled, an ordinance to amend the original ordinance 2019-55, the annual operating budget for 2020 to reduce the wage amount of the Van Buren County election commissioners. Whereas due to the budget strain on the county, each office has reduced their budgets, and whereas there is a need to reduce the wage amount of the Van Buren County Election Commissioners to $100 each per meeting, and whereas Van Buren County Election Commissioners will be allowed a total of 10 meetings for a primary election, total of 10 meetings for general election, and total of 10 meetings for a special election, including any runoff elections. Whereas the Van Buren County Election Commissioners will be allowed $25 for any meetings held if needed, in addition to the 10 meetings and runoff elections. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas, that Section 1, the Election Commissioner's wage will be reduced to $100 per meeting. Section 2, a total of 10 meetings will be allowed for primary, general, and special elections, total possibility of 30 meetings within a year, including runoff elections. Section 3, any meetings held in addition to the 10 allowed will be reduced to $25 each per meeting. This is a second reading.
Okay. Do you wish to conduct the third reading this month or do that next month?
I would like to go ahead and do the third if it's okay.
Okay.
Was you gonna amend this, Dale? You said you were gonna
Okay.
amend it to.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the second reading of this ordinance. At this time, I would entertain a motion to suspend the rules to conduct the third reading at this meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's moved by Phillips, second by Tatum to suspend the rules to conduct the third and final reading by title only. Is that good, by title only at this meeting? Roll call vote for suspension.
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
Okay. Justice Holt, would you read the third and final reading by title only?
Being enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to entitled, an ordinance to amend the original ordinance 2019-55, the annual operating budget for 2020, to reduce the wage amount of the Van Buren County Election Commissioners.
Thank you. Discussion.
Yeah, what were you asking?
What about the
guys?
chairman? We're paying him $150 a meeting, we're paying the other to $100.
Yes, they're all gonna get the same.
Well, it's not really spelled out, it don't say anything about not paying him.
Yeah, because the state only pays us $100 per person.
Well, okay, if that's, if it's
That's
not cover
all.
that, Dale, cool, that's good.
That's it. Yep, I agree.
All right.
Do we have new commissioners?
Those have not been appointed yet, but they're in the process.
Did Bobby resign also?
Yes. Any more discussion? Roll call vote?
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2020-10.
Thank you. Next ordinance will be read by Justice Lemmings.
Be enacted by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, the State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled, an ordinance to amend the original ordinance 2019-55, the annual operating budget for 2020, and to increase line item number 101002, salaries and part-time, and to transfer monies within the budget for safety and maintenance, 1000-123. Whereas a custodian is needed for the courthouse and the courthouse annex, and whereas a part-time custodian will work a total of 20 hours per week at $11 per hour. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County that Section 1, that line item 100102, salaries part-time, be added to safety and maintenance budget 1000-123. In Section 2, the following be transferred from line item 4004, machinery and equipment, to personal services 1000-123-102, salaries part-time, $9,240. 1023-106, Social Security, $706.86. 1023-1011, unemployment, $35, totaling $9,981.86. I move to approve this ordinance.
I'll second.
Okay. It's been motioned by Lemmings, second by Holt to approve this ordinance. Discussion.
Who's doing it now?
It is Joanne. I couldn't think of her name. Joanne Isom. She does a wonderful job. She's been on the program for 6 months. Her term is expiring, And under the program, they don't get to travel from building to building. They have to spend all their time at the building because their insurance doesn't cover anything in between. And she is a high enough quality laborer or individual or whatever, that her work quality is so good, she could take care of this building and the courthouse downtown and within these 20 hours. But then again, the whole world changed in the last few days, so y'all just tell us what to do.
Has there always been a custodian?
We used to have a full-time custodian that we trimmed out to just because of the budget.
We used to have a program where they could work 20 hours a week and the state paid that. Is that not work now?
That's where that's the program she's on right now.
And you can't put somebody else on it too? Are you doing this for her?
It would be
to get another one?
to keep her.
Oh, to keep her?
To keep
So
her.
you only got the one?
Right. We have one for the other annex, the north annex, and then they have one that's working in helping do painting and some of that work.
And it's my understanding that the courthouse downtown has not had anyone to clean. And they have district court there and a lot of court there. And, somebody's got to clean the bathrooms. And it's not a fun thing to do. And I know that they're not always very respectful in those bathrooms either when, So I think that part of this was so that they could get someone. Would it be once a week, or how does she just clean it, just how it falls?
Whatever the schedule is, once or twice a week.
But y'all haven't had anyone doing it right now. Okay.
So, can you tell me what buildings it is? Is it just this one in the courthouse?
It'd be this one in the courthouse.
Does it, and I don't want to begrudge anybody a job, we just spent $13,000 and I'm willing
Right.
to $2,000. Will it require 20 hours? Could it be done in less?
It would require the 20 hours to do the right job. Debbie's courthouse just gets trashed. She's cleaned
You own
up
your
drug
courthouse
paraphernalia.
And if I can I speak?
You bet.
I have very mixed emotions about this. I'm the one that came to Dale and said, please, can you find me something? We clean up blood. We clean up human feces in the floor. We clean up things you couldn't imagine, but it is a public bathroom. Every time we have court there, yes, they stop up the toilets. Every single time. We have cleaned blood from one little spot to a complete smear of the bathroom. I don't feel like that's our job. I feel like our jobs as clerks are to be in our office doing our jobs. But the other side of me that tears me up is where we are right now. We are in a horrible, horrible state. And I feel guilty for asking for it. I know the money's in the budget. So y'all do what you think's right, because I don't care anymore. I'm just worried.
Guilty, and I agree it's not your job.
Yeah, but I'm not above doing it.
I know, obviously you've been doing it. So.
This money is already in the
Yeah.
budget, correct?
It is.
Okay.
It was already in the safety
And I do know
maintenance
exactly
budget.
where she's coming from, because I know of
Yeah.
the feces part of it,
Yeah.
and that's just thugs that does that, and they do it all the time, and I do know where you're coming from with that.
I think one other thing we need to throw into this too, this cleaning lady is gonna have to be a lot more careful than she ever has been. And we're gonna have things wiped that we haven't had wiped before in that courthouse.
Well, we need different cleaning.
Yeah,
I mean, no
different
matter if
cleaning
we do it
supplies.
or someone else does it,
Yeah.
there has to be some stronger and better one. Like, we have gloves. We wear gloves. I just get them at Walmart, just the cheapest ones I can get. So, I mean, that is gonna be another expense, which I have part of my budget, my general supplies, I can buy some of that, but I just feel guilty.
Right. This
Well, if
can.
it's in the budget, then that-
Right, this
that's no
can
money.
still be absorbed in the maintenance budget.
It's in my opinion.
It's up to y'all.
That has
Yeah.
always been a problem,
Mm-hmm.
always been a problem.
And it's getting worse.
It is getting.
I know it was bad when I was there. I'd have to go in there and clean that thing every time we had court. Because the girls wouldn't do it.
Shannon, did you?
I wanted to say something. This cleaning lady, we absolutely love her. She's very trusting. She's a hard worker. And we've went through a few of them here. And she puts everything into what she does. And I mean, she's amazing.
But I'm still unclear here. You have one already that's working 20 hours a week up here. Are you asking for another one?
No, she's falling off the program. She served her 6 months. We're just wanting to keep her by picking her up.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
Will she be able to apply next year?
For the program,
Yeah.
no, she served her time. It's a training program. It trains people of a certain age and over it retrains them to enter the workforce.
I got you.
And she would be trained up. So she's ready to enter the workforce. That's what the program's designed for.
Yeah. You don't want to lose
If
her
that's
'cause-
something y'all pass, but like I said, I'm torn on both sides with it. But that might be something I could pick up on my budget next year instead of it coming out of, I mean, I don't know if that's even proper, but I don't know if it has to be split between the two or what. I mean, I'm not above y'all letting me buy extra special supplies and doing it myself. I'm not above that.
Do you have any other questions before vote? Roll call vote?
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Bradford,
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Lemmings.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2020-11.
Thank you. Okay, there was an ordinance that you will see that was just added in, and we're going to suspend the rules and run that. This, we don't need to run, but I do want to cover it while we're discussing it. It is to comply with the National Declaration of Emergency to take care of any employees directly impacted by COVID-19. The way the state declaration or the national declaration works, this one is no longer needed. We got that word today. And if there is another amendment that's needed or something that we need to do at county level, AAC will give that to us and we'll entertain that when we need to. But what this states, and it mirrors the federal mandate, if a family member is impacted or if one of our employees is impacted because of a family member, they get that time off. They have to use their own accumulated paid time. If they themselves have been exposed or the doctor tells them that they need to go into quarantine, or if the elected official agrees that they need to go into self-quarantine without the doctor's note, then the county pays for those 2 weeks of quarantine. Okay. Next, we have a resolution that's sponsored by 7 of you. So who would like the opportunity to read that resolution? Mary, you're a good spokesperson.
Be it resolved by the Quorum Court of the County of Van Buren, State of Arkansas, a resolution to be entitled, a resolution affirming Van Buren County's effort to guard against any encroachment on individual liberty rights enumerated in the U.S. Bill of Rights and the Arkansas Declaration of Rights, including but not limited to the right to keep and bear arms. Whereas Van Buren County residents have a long-standing belief in the Bill of Rights in the United States Constitution and the Declaration of Rights in the Arkansas Constitution. And whereas, as elected officials, we are sworn to uphold both the U.S. Constitution and the Arkansas Constitution in our oath of office. And whereas it seems that several of our time-honored individual liberty rights enumerated in the U.S. Constitution and the Arkansas Constitution are under attack, particularly the right to keep and bear arms, rights of the people, Whereas it is plainly stated in the U.S. Constitution Amendment 9, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And whereas it is plainly stated in the Arkansas Constitution, Article 2, Section 29, the enumeration of rights of people not exclusive of other rights, protection against encroachment. This enumeration of rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people, and to guard against any encroachments on the rights herein retained, or any transgression of any of the higher powers herein delegated. We declare that everything in this article is accepted out of the general powers of the government, and shall forever remain inviolate, and that all laws contrary thereto, or to the other provisions herein contained, shall be void. Right to keep and bear arms. Whoa. Whereas it is plainly stated in the U.S. Constitution Amendment 2, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And whereas it is plainly stated in the Arkansas Constitution, Article 2, Section 5, right to bear arms, the citizens of this state shall have the right to keep and bear arms for their common defense. Right of due process. Whereas it is plainly stated in the U.S. Constitution Amendment 5, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And whereas it is plainly stated in the U.S. Constitution Amendment 14, Section 1, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. And whereas it is plainly stated in the Arkansas Constitution, Article 2, Section 8, criminal charges, self-incrimination, due process, double jeopardy, bail, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And whereas it is plainly stated in the Arkansas Constitution, Article 2, Section 13, redress of wrongs. Every person is entitled to a certain remedy in the laws for all injuries or wrongs he may receive in his person, property, or character. He ought to obtain justice freely and without purchase, completely and without denial, promptly and without delay, conformably to the laws. And whereas it is plainly stated in the Arkansas Constitution, Article 2, Section 21, life, liberty, and property, banishment prohibited. No person shall be deprived of his life, liberty, or property except by the judgment of his peers or the law of the land. Right of equal protection. Whereas it is plainly stated in the U.S. Constitution, Amendment 14, Section 1, no state shall deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. And whereas it is plainly stated in the Arkansas Constitution, Article 2, Section 2, freedom and independence. All men are created equally free and independent and have certain inherent and inalienable rights, amongst which are those enjoying and defending life and liberty, of acquiring, possessing, and protecting property and reputation, and of pursuing their own happiness. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And whereas it is plainly stated in the Arkansas Constitution, Article 2, Section 18, privileges and immunities, equality. The General Assembly shall not grant any citizen or class of citizens privileges or immunities which, upon the same terms, shall not equally belong to all citizens. And whereas it is plainly stated in the Arkansas Constitution, Article 2, Section 3, the equality of all persons before the law is recognized and shall ever remain inviolate, nor shall any citizen ever be deprived of any right, privilege, or immunity, nor exempted from any burden or duty on account of race, color, or previous condition. Right against unreasonable search and seizure. Whereas it is plainly stated in the U.S. Constitution Amendment 4, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause. supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. And whereas it is plainly stated in the Arkansas Constitution, Article 2, Section 15, unreasonable searches and seizures, the right of the people of this state to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue except upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or thing to be seized. Powers of the state. Whereas it is plainly stated in the U.S. Constitution Amendment 10, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people, and whereas it is plainly stated in the U.S. Constitution, Article 2, Section 1, source of power. All political power is inherent to the people, and the government is instituted for their protection, security, and benefit, and they have the right to alter, reform, or abolish the same in such manner as they may think proper. And whereas it is plainly stated in the Arkansas Constitution, Article 2, Section 12, suspension of laws, no power of suspending or setting aside the law or laws of the state shall ever be exercised except by the General Assembly. Sworn duty of county officials and officers. Whereas, in order to uphold our sworn duty, we are bound to follow and enforce support of all of the provisions of the U.S. Constitution, Bill of Rights, and the Arkansas Constitution Declaration of Rights. And whereas it is our duty to do our part to guard against any unconstitutional denial of, disparagement of, or encroachment of any of the enumerated or unenumerated rights retained by the people. Now therefore be it resolved by the Quorum Court of Van Buren County, Arkansas. Number 1, Second Amendment County, as an expression of Van Buren County's desire to join the present nationwide effort, so affirmatively state county government support. 2, affirmatively state county government support for the U.S. Constitution, Bill of Rights, Second Amendment, and the statewide effort to affirmatively state county government support for the Arkansas Constitution, Declaration of Rights, Section 5, as plainly written and historically interpreted and applied. Let it be resolved and known that Van Buren County, Arkansas is hereby designated a Second Amendment county. Number 2, right to keep and bear arms. Van Buren County shall uphold each and every provision of the Bill of Rights in the U.S. Constitution and the Declaration of Rights in the Arkansas Constitution, and specifically, Van Buren County shall uphold the right of the citizens of this county to keep and bear arms, as guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution Amendment 2 and the Arkansas Constitution Declaration of Rights, Article 2, Section 5. Number 3, unconstitutional laws are void. It is declared to be the official policy of Van Buren County that the U.S. Second Amendment right and the Arkansas Article 2, Section 5 right of citizens to keep and bear arms will be honored by the officials, officers, and employees of Van Buren County as a constitutionally protected individual liberty right, and that any act of any legislature that plainly abrogates U.S. Constitution Amendment 2 or Arkansas Constitution Declaration of Rights, Article 2, Section 5, will be treated as void and therefore unenforceable in Van Buren County. Number 4, liberty rights belong to the people. Since it is clear from both U.S. Constitution Amendment 9 and Arkansas Constitution Article 2, Section 29, that individual liberty rights belong to the people and are to be forever retained by the people and not transgressed by any of the powers delegated to either the U.S. or Arkansas governments, Van Buren County shall neither interpret nor construe any legislation in any manner that would deny or disparage the Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Rights, and shall guard against any encroachments on the U.S. Bill of Rights and the Arkansas Declaration of Rights. Number 5, shall forever remain inviolate. Van Buren County agrees with and supports the U.S. Constitution Amendment 9 and Arkansas Constitution Article 2, Section 29 concepts that the individual liberty rights enumerated in the U.S. Bill of Rights and the Arkansas Declaration of Rights are accepted out of the general powers of the government and shall forever remain inviolate. Number 6, due process of law. that Buren County shall obey the constitutions of the U.S. and Arkansas, including the 10th Amendment, police powers as needed to maintain order, ensure security, and keep the peace. All as limited by the 4th Amendment right of every person to be free from unreasonable searches, and seizures, and the 14th Amendment promise that no person will be deprived of life, liberty, or property except by due process of law. I move that we accept this.
Second.
Okay. It was moved by Phillips, second by Bass,
Yes.
to adopt this resolution. Any discussion?
I was wondering if we could hear it again.
What brought this on at this time? I mean, I'm all for bearing arms and the right to bear arms, but where did this all come about? I mean,
Was it the state of Virginia?
mhm.
Yes. Many believe that the state of Virginia has overstepped their constitutional boundaries to infringe upon the Second Amendment.
Okay.
So this reaffirms Van Buren County's commitment to the Second Amendment of the Constitution.
So have they asked you as each county to do this, would support it, or?
They didn't ask us to do this. They gave it to us. Mike Rainwater wrote this, and it is up to each individual county as to whether or not they so choose to adopt this resolution.
Awesome.
Any other discussion? Roll call vote?
Holt,
Yes.
Nikki,
Yes.
Sarah. Yes. Phillips,
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Tatum,
Yes.
Fleming.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
2020-07.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules for the purpose of entertaining the transfers cumulatively without the audible reading.
So moved.
Okay. Moved by Phillips, second by Sarah Brown. Any discussion? Roll call vote on suspension.
Holt.
Yes.
Nikki.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Bradford.
Yes.
Tatum.
Yes.
Fleming.
Yes.
Bass.
Yes.
Okay. This time I'll entertain a motion to approve the transfers.
Make a motion to approve the transfers.
Second.
Okay. It's been motioned by Holt, second by Nikki Brown to approve the transfers. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I've got just a couple of notes before we close. COVID-19 has thrown some questions about what we would do. I know we're currently under a tornado watch. Are the tornado shelters at Clinton School going to be opened should we go under a tornado warning? The answer to that is yes. The needs of right now will outweigh the needs of what could be. We will monitor who goes in, who comes out, and that way, if we have some kind of a passing of the virus, we'll know who all to notify should it happen there at the shelter, and we'll just sanitize the shelter after it's over with. The only one that will be open is the one at the Clinton Junior High in the basement. I would like to inform the court and the community that we did sign and file a declaration of emergency today for the COVID-19 epidemic and the virus that is positive in our county. This should open up some federal assistance and some funding, and we're going to work adamantly toward that. We will do our diligence to make sure that we stay within the boundaries of each individual budget. We're just going to accumulate those expenses to get reimbursed what we need to get reimbursed through my office, and we can get those expenses reimbursed back into the line items which they were expensed from. And the school has announced that they will be shut down at this time at least until April 20th. Our next Quorum Court meeting is April 16th. Would you guys be open to having an earlier meeting on the 16th?
Yes.
Okay, what time would y'all like to meet? We can do it at any time during that day.
Can can we call this when we see what's happening here a little? I mean, we do not have no idea. I mean, it's turned so much in 1 week. If we progress as much in the next week as we have this first week, then it could be a total shutdown of lockdown completely. You want to plan it and just say,
If, even with a total lockdown, the only way that the quorum courts cannot meet statutorily is if we're under martial law.
okay,
So other than that, there is no leeway between us having a public gathering and us not. That the law provides no wiggle
You know
room.
that gentleman with the silver suit?
That was your brother?
No, I just need his number for this.
I would entertain maybe we have it at 4 o'clock.
No, I ain't no way.
What's the purpose of having it
Okay.
earlier?
Oh, just for convenience. And we
Yeah.
can leave it at the 6 o'clock.
what's
That's
the
just
earliest
fine.
you-
Well, yeah,
I can't, that's middle of turkey season.
Turkey season.
I mean, I'll be working, I'll be working until dark. So,
Yeah.
Six.
there ain't no
Six.
way I could, no.
Okay. Then,
I have a question.
Yes.
What about the annex? Are you looking at having to shut that down or?
we have a statutory obligation to be here for our constituents, for the taxpayers, for the community.
One of my constituents, one of my voters, was concerned about the shutdown and them not getting paid, but the document we talked about earlier covers that.
They'll be taken care of. The doors to the courthouse are locked during business hours. That does not in any way mean that the government is shut down. It just means that access to the building is being controlled. Should someone need to come in, we go to the door, we get them, we escort them in, we ask them to sanitize with a hand sanitizer, and we protect our fellow employees while at the same time protecting them. If they show signs of visible illness, we can not bring them in. We can bring the work to them.
So you're not
So-
looking at, you're not able to shut down, correct?
No, and I know some other counties have. They have closed for a few days. With the measures we have in place, we all feel perfectly comfortable with doing what we're doing. Yes, ma'am.
We have 2 grievances coming up.
Mm-hmm.
One's on the 16th.
One was on the 16th after the Quorum Court meeting. The other one
That's
is
right.
that following Tuesday. And that is pending CDC guidelines that we are able to do that.
So the new date for the new meeting is the 16th. Is that, or are we moving it? The quorum court meeting will be on the 16th, followed by a grievance hearing.
Correct. Correct.
And then another one on the 20th.
21st.
21st.
Still keeping it at 6 then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Keep
So-
that? Go ahead.
go ahead, finish what you're.
Okay, I have one thing to say.
You bet.
This is reference to the personnel policy. Your judge has done a lot of work on this, and I was there to help him on some things. We now have the personnel policy printed out. I'm taking it home. I'm gonna go fine tooth comb one more time, and then we're gonna get a meeting together with the personnel committee so we can lock this thing down. I think it's a lot more stealth. It's a lot easier to read, and it just makes perfect sense. And this is the model we got from the AAC.
Do you think we could do it on the 21st
I
before
don't
that,
see why we couldn't. Yeah.
piggyback on
Right
that
after.
other
Mhm.
grievance?
Yes, it'll be ready by then.
And I'm glad you mentioned the Personnel Policy Committee meeting, because at this time, barring an emergency situation, I think we need to show great leadership and discipline in as far as the CDC. We need to follow their recommendations. So we need to try to stay at home to prevent the spread to ourselves. And until this pandemic shows signs of being over, I don't think there's anything that we can't, in that personnel policy, push off. Because it's the policy we've operated under for a few years, and we can operate for a few more weeks.
Just on what you said right there, if you don't mind. There's still a lot of people out there, and I just pray that people, especially everybody in here, there's still a lot of people out there thinks it's a big joke. All right, and it is what it is, and it ain't. It's bad. It's bad news. And I mean, prime example, just drove by Walmart and you couldn't get in the parking lot. Okay, and it's fixing to hit us, and it's going to hit us hard. It's going to hit us in the kneecaps. So If you don't have to be out, don't freaking be out. Stay at the house. Go fishing. Go fishing in your pond.
Hey, is the,
Yeah, don't worry about license.
You won't give us a ticket when we get
Don't
caught?
worry about it. Don't worry about fishing license. Just go fishing. You know.
You got it. You know what I want to hear.
No, they passed.
Doggone, I bought my license yesterday. Now I'm gonna go back and tell them I want my money back.
Hey, the commissioners passed it, so it was passed. So, but the idea is social distancing. Just man, there's a lot of people out there that think it's a big joke, and it's gonna. I mean, it's already hit us, and it's just gonna get worse from here.
It is. Yes, ma'am.
I have two things. There was a telecommunications conference last week for the JPs. Does anybody else? Good for you. I really found it very informative. If anybody else, if they have another thing, and to call into. But one of the interesting things that I got from an email today, did anybody else read the thing on employees traveling? There's a question on whether or not if your employees travel out of the county, if they have to sequester themselves out of the county, not just out of the state, out of the county. Really something to think about. I live a block or two from Cleveland County.
So,
Yeah.
That's something that more is unknown than is known at this point, and things are changing rapidly. And I got a call today that said, "Have you seen this email?" And I had not seen it yet. And I was so appreciative of that, because used to I'd get 4 or 5 emails a day. I'm getting 100 a day now, and conference call after conference call after conference call. And guys, and I hope the public views this and takes this to heart. Now is, of all times, not the time to panic, but now is the time to take seriously what we have before us, because this is bigger than us. This isn't a tornado that came through and now we just go through and we clean up and piece our lives back together. This is almost like the Arkansas River flood, where it was painfully slow, just watching it happen and just hoping that it would hurry and get over with. We have more in front of us than we have behind us, but we're ready. Our emergency operations, our commands are in place. We're working closely with the cities, with Shirley, with Damascus, with Clinton and Fairfield Bay. We're working closely. We keep that open dialogue with our hospitals. I do feel good about where we are on the front side of this. We just need to do our diligence to take seriously the threat that's before us.
So there was one case confirmed in Van Buren County?
Yes, sir. There was one case confirmed in Van Buren
What have we done
County.
about quarantining that situation? I mean, I don't read all the ins and outs, but I mean, what area is it in and what are we doing?
We know that it was in Fairfield Bay,
Mm-hmm.
and Paul Wellenberger, that's within his jurisdiction, and
Okay.
he is taking steps. And today, more of that rapid change. No more dining room dining at restaurants. No more gathering at places like that. So it's either a pickup or a drive-through.
So was it an out-of-state travel, or was it, do we know how we are? Yes.
It started by a pastor and his wife in Greer's Ferry. And I'm not quite sure, I think it was a travel out of state. And then they had a community in their church, 20 people. And one person was from Fairfield Bay. Okay, so they may have more in Greer's Ferry.
And I heard today there were 8 in that church that were tested positive.
See, I know that the one in Fairfield Bay that went is positive.
They were
Now,
eight.
right,
You know,
let me be very, very firm and quick to add the disclaimer that I have not seen that verified information. And we do have a lot of community rumor that's running
Right,
around.
absolutely. That's why I
So,
wrote down to you.
let this piece of dialogue that we're having now, let's just add that disclaimer, unverified.
Well, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yes.
And you heard that your whole life, but it fits the situation.
Lots of rumors.
So there's just one confirmed case in Van Buren County?
One so far. There have been others tested, and who knows what the results of those
There's
tests will be.
several in quarantine, I think, correct?
There are, and there have been some self-quarantine because of known exposure, yes.
It takes a couple of days to get the
Yeah,
test,
I think right now we're at a 4-day
It's
test,
14-day dormant period too.
possibly.
yeah. It's a 4-day test now, so if you go test today, you're not gonna find out for 4 days.
3 to 4. 3 to 4, depending on the lab.
Yeah. You know, I had thought earlier that I'm sitting on top of my mountain and I'm gonna be safe. No.
And one thing too, that my son's a PA in Atlanta, and he's in CDC every day. And they said the viral part of it, the spreading of the germ lasts from 2 to 3 hours. But as far as surfaces, it lasts from 3 to 5 days on surfaces that aren't wiped out.
I'm the only one with gloves on, folks.
I've got my hand sanitizer.
Well, and the biggest thing everybody
Okay.
needs to remember, this is a long-term thing. This is not a 2-week deal and we're done with it. This,
Right.
you know, this is gonna be a long-term.
And I would be wrong if I didn't say that I worry about our community's economic prosperity.
Absolutely.
It feels like there's just something not right. It feels like we're going to wake up and this is going to be over. But to drive up 65 and to see in the middle of the day 60 consecutive seconds of no traffic going by the window, to drive by KFC and see not one car in the lot, to drive by Western Sizzling and other places of bustling business and see complete nothing. You know, we as a county have faced tight budgets, and we know how to do what we have to do to make those budgets meet, even when it hurts. Unfortunately, those business owners don't have that leeway of just making some cuts. They're going to be forced with some horrible decisions of closure, if not temporary, then permanent. And I just want to say our hearts go out to them.
Absolutely. Just say one more thing. Check on the elderly. They don't need to leave. They don't need to go home. I have 3 ladies that I called this evening, you know, now I've got to stop somewhere. But, you know, but the idea is I'm a little bit healthier than they are. You see what I'm saying here? So they're, check on the elderly. They don't need to be getting out. And I know Walmart's done a deal there, but if they don't have to get out, they don't need to be, you know. So just make sure we check on them.
Is anybody doing anything with senior hour? With a time that seniors are supposed to be going? Like Walmart? Is there a senior hour?
Walmart and the Dollar General. Walmart is Tuesdays from 6 till 7, I believe. Dollar General is daily, the first hour of operation.
I think Cash Savers is delivering also.
Cash.
And what was the last one?
Walmart and Dollar.
Cash Savers delivering. Within, I don't know the parameters, but
I
yes.
think they say within 5 miles.
I believe so.
Yeah, that's what I said.
But if there's somebody out there that needs something, I mean, let call, we'll get it to them.
Yeah.
So, we'll call Gina.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
You betcha. Have a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any opposed?